Who doesn't love a trip to see the lambs in spring at their local farm attraction? Well, it turns out lots of people do. Farm attractions are an important part of the visitor economy. On average, 25 million people visit a farm attraction each year, and these attractions contribute £300 million annually to the rural economy. Today, I'm at the National Farm Attraction Network Conference in Blackpool. There's a packed agenda and amazing exhibitors, so join me for some lively chat as we find out more about this vibrant sector. Welcome to Skip the Queue, the podcast for people working in and working with visitor attractions. I'm your host, Paul Marden, and I'm joined today by guests from across the farm attraction sector. First up is Tom Pearcy.
Yes, I'm Tom Pearcy. I'm the controller of fun at York Maze, and I'm also the co-chairman of NFAN, which is the National Farm Attractions Network.
Tom, we always ask our guests an icebreaker question. So, very topical, we're in Blackpool. I'd love to say, it is sunny Blackpool. It's also perishingly cold Blackpool. So it was brisk on my walk into the venue this morning. But if you were to have the opportunity to sleep anywhere under the stars on a beach, where in the world would you go?
I've had a good look around Blackpool. I think probably Scarborough. Blackpool is Lancashire. We're going to get back home into Yorkshire, so the beach in Scarborough after a big night on the bingo.
See, I'm such a southerner. All of these places, they're just up north to me. Is there a big east-west divide here?
There is a huge Yorkshire-Lancashire thing, a lot of banter. All my friends with farm attractions in Lancashire, we have a lot of exchange of banter.
Unless you're talking to a southerner and then you all pile in on us.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Tom, tell listeners a little bit about NFAN and the farm attractions sector more broadly.
Okay, yeah, so NFAN stands for National Farm Attractions Network. It is essentially a networking group, trade group, kind of representative body for farmers that have diversified into leisure, I guess, is for one term. It's quite a broad church. We've got members here with sort of typical farm park, lots of animals, kind of petting stuff. A lot of them have indoor play. That's kind of your classic farm park. And then we've got people like me, that I'm a maze operator, so I don't have any animals. You get people that do both. We've got people here with flower patches, sunflower fields, pumpkin fields. I've also got a big Halloween attraction, scare attraction, so we've got kind of a mixture of everything. So,
but all of it centred around that kind of diversifying the farm's income by bringing in leisure in some sort
absolutely.
of way.
I mean, interestingly now, there are quite a few members that have never seen a farm in their life, but I guess the attraction, some people have bought a farm park or, added to their collection of enterprises. So we do have people that are not farmers, but there is always going to be a link with farming somewhere in that DNA.
Yeah. For many attractions, cost of living crisis really bit in last year. It was a real challenging year. It impacted visitor numbers, it impacted revenues. Were farm attractions able to kind of buck the trend?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, farmers by their very nature are resilient anywhere. We're used to all sorts of challenges. When you're farming, your life is dominated by the patterns of the weather, and harvest yields go up and down. The work and tourism. Everyone's diversified to try and de-risk their farm, but moved into something that's pretty much as volatile. Certainly, farm attractions, the weather affects them greatly. But with the cost of living and everything else, I would say that we're relatively good value for money, I think, the farm attraction sector. So although some bigger ticket places may feel the pinch a bit, I think we represent great value for money. The ticket prices are generally sub or around £20, and that could be a full day's entertainment. So compared to a full-on theme park or something, it's probably more affordable.
Yes.
And it's that younger age group where we find demographics is kids from 4 up to about 10 or 12 in that region is where most people are aiming demographically, and they're the people that need to get out. The kids are a pain in the arse at home. Teenagers take it or leave it, and now with all the social media stuff and games at home, it's sort of a different market. But those kids of that age are a pain in the arse by week 4 of the summer holidays. So people do want to get out with them. So I mean, certainly over the last year, I think chatting to all the members, everyone's had a pretty good year, so nobody's squeaking about it at the minute. I think this year may be another year that's going to be more painful, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we're going to see the impact of national insurance, aren't we? So these are people-heavy businesses, aren't they? So that's going to be tough for them, I guess.
Yeah. But there's also a lot of family labour involved. These are farms, so we'll just get breeding.
What does the outlook look like for the year ahead? What's interesting and happening?
I think what we're seeing is in the farm attraction sector, certainly the event side of things seems to be growing.
Yes.
So everyone sort of moved from just doing a standard thing we do. A lot of people have moved through COVID. I think a lot of people have moved away from 12-month opening. I think it made people realise that you don't need to open your farm every day of the year, which typically a lot of people have done, and that's part of the reason why the indoor play centres came into it, because it's cold and wet in the winter.
Yes.
So what we're going to do, we'll build something indoors for them to go into. But even then, people are realising now that they operate at a loss for a lot of the time. So people have started shutting things down through COVID, and then that's kind of come out of COVID, and they've said, actually, let's just shut rather than operate at a loss. And then, the flip side of that is, well, what else can we do to make up for that period we were shut? And a lot of people have then moved into events, whether that's, just a brief pumpkin, the classic one at the minute is huge growth in pumpkin patches, and that's kind of stuff that's come over from America, and that's, grown massively in the last couple of years. Sunflowers, wildflowers, all these sort of things are new events that are popping up.
I can feel over my shoulder our friends from Tully's who are about to join me for a conversation, and we'll be talking about tulips. Tulips are a thing coming up to bring your events into springtime.
Yeah.
So there's lots of opportunities, aren't there, for diversification, for you to be able to sweat the asset. But then interesting, we were seeing James Sinclair talking about his farm parks and talking about his reducing the operating hours.
Yeah.
Just not. You want to sweat the asset as much as you can, but why stay open when it doesn't make sense, when it's not commercially viable? Save everybody the stress and then focus your attention.
Interestingly, that's kind of the background I came from. The maize maze, I'm limited to the corn, goes planted in April, May. It's not big enough to walk around until July, and then it sort of starts to die back in September. So it classically is the summer holidays. And everyone said, because I ended up buying a farm. I'm a tenant farmer by trade. I ended up buying a farm to move this to, and sort of threw my lot into this and said, right, I'll have to make this work, because I've borrowed a lot of money to make it all come to fruition. It was interesting that a lot of people said, well, you need to turn it into a farm park. You need an indoor play centre. You need to do this. You need to do that. I'd already been running the maize maze for a few years, and I realised how good it could be if we really maximise that short period. So we've sort of added attractions and made it a full day out. The dwell time at our maze is now 6.5 hours is average stay. So people are there for a full day, and we ram them in. We've made it a big park. We have a lot of capacity on all the rides and activities. So we can put 4,000 people a day through, and everyone's enjoying it. And we really maximise the period we're open, and then we shut the doors, and that's it. And we still keep all the management team in place, and they're doing other stuff and going on holiday. But we're paying full-time salaries, but we're only open, we do 7 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks at Halloween. So we're open for 9 weeks a year.
And the rest of the time the team are just on the golf course enjoying themselves.
Well, that's what I think, but they will tell you otherwise.
Next up, I'm joined by Helen Bull, the CEO of the Escapade Group. We always ask our podcast guests a icebreaker question. I've got one for you, which is very on theme for NFAN conference. When you're going to a farm attraction, what is the animal that you'll go and seek out to go and pet or feed if you can do it?
Oh, well, there's lots of them that I like. I am drawn to pigs. In terms of, I just love the way they sort of snuffle in the mud. I love the curly tails. I like the different varieties you get. Yeah, they just look like happy animals. And if I'm driving along the road and you see the sort of all the little pig huts, you just think there's that little community. It does, yeah.
Helen, tell us a little bit about Escapade Group and your role at Escapade.
Yeah, so I've been at the Escapade Group for just over 3 months, so a new role for me and a new role for the company as well, which is exciting. And the Escapade Group is basically 6 attractions in 5 locations. So we have 2 indoor soft play, our kids spaces, and we have 2 farm park attractions with both indoor soft play and outdoor soft play. We also have Gripped, which is an aerial adventure park, which is very exciting. Lots of zip wires and treks and things. And then we also have Watermouth Castle down Down in Devon, which is quite a quirky place, but it has fantastic gardens and again lots of play and interactive elements as well.
And that's quite new for Escapade Group, isn't it?
It is. It's about 18 months ago that we acquired that. We had a fantastic first full year, quite a captive audience in the summer there, particularly with all the holiday parks and tourists that go down there as well.
Is there anything that you're doing that extends that season? Are you doing events and things like that to try and captivate people?
Yep, so I think like a lot of attractions, it's about how you diversify, how you get that sort of incremental spend out of people. And we did the Scare event at Watermouth, which was great, and obviously that was a much older audience than our family audience tends to be. And then also at Hobbledown Heath, we did pumpkins for the first time last October, which went really, really well actually. And again, I think the interesting thing about that was in the daytime you did have that sort of family and toddler audience, but in the evenings we did some lates, as it were. You actually got quite a different demographic. It was much more sort of couples, date nights, Instagrammers, definitely. Wow. So some interesting outfits as well, but they loved the sort of photo opportunities. Absolutely. And I think that's really interesting for us in terms of effectively being able to have kind of two tickets really, one for the day and then one for the evening. And we also saw with that event that we saw incremental visitors to the main Hobbledown Heath site as well. So had that benefit as well. And they all loved their marshmallows, so we couldn't keep up with the marshmallows.
Well, there's a lesson to learn for next year. Much more stock.
But definitely a way to go. And we've got a new exciting event this year. So we're trying tulips, Tulip Festival for the first time. So obviously, fingers crossed that all those tulips come up.
Yes.
But I think that should be really exciting.
That'd be beautiful.
I think in the sort of local location where we are in Hounslow, actually that sort of Asian market will really be attracted with the flowers as well.
That's interesting.
I think lots of opportunities to attract different types of audiences.
Absolutely. So, Helen, your background is at Merlin, isn't it?
That's correct, yes.
So you've gone from a long career at Merlin in this big corporate, and now you've moved into this new role at Escapade. So let's think about an organisation like Merlin compared to a smaller group with the farm attractions that you've got within Escapade. Where do the similarities exist, and where are the real key points of difference?
I think definitely for me, and one of my sort of deciding factors is about quality of product. I guess coming from a sales and marketing background, you've got to believe in the product.
Yes.
And I think, Merlin have some fantastic attractions and brands and IPs, as well as, when I saw the Escapade offering, I was actually really excited by that because there's a lot of detail there, there's a lot of quality, and, you think that's the sort of thing that you're proud to talk about to your friends and family.
Of course.
I think the other thing is that passion, for the industry, and actually whether you're in a big attraction or a small attraction, people who work in the leisure industry have that passion.
Yes.
They all want it to succeed. Yeah. They all invested in it. They all make friends. It's like a, sort of, especially with the sort of Gen Z, it's like a social club really. That's where they meet their friends and, go out with people and things. And, I think those are the absolute similarities, that go from one attraction to the other. I think, sort of different to that is, I guess, Merlin has a lot of infrastructure.
Yes.
So there's always somebody that you can call, or departments. Obviously it's quite heavy on the sort of the number of people that are employed there, and something like the Escapade Group is a lot leaner, and needs to be, obviously, because we're a different type of attraction, and that's both sort of something that's really really exciting and actually really beneficial, as much as sometimes it can be, if only I had another person that could help me with that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more, you get involved a lot more, which I think is good, because you're nearer to what's actually happening at the coalface versus, I think, not saying that I was, but, you can tend to be a bit in your, kind of ivory tower if you're not careful.
Completely.
And certainly the people who worked in the central departments were, and actually what happens at the coalface when you've got guests, or things not working, or actually just seeing that sort of joy on people's faces as they go around your attractions. That's what we all get up for.
Completely.
Come to work for, isn't it?
Completely. I think when you get those big teams, you do end up with lots of specialists. Once you shrink down, then people have to be a generalist, I should say.
What I'm loving is, that you can just make the decision. With Merlin, you had to go through a number of people or a number of, different sort of milestones, versus we can just make the decisions of how do we want to grow our businesses and get on with it, which is, enables us to be really agile and really flexible, and take advantage of things that are happening in the marketplace very, very quickly if we want to.
So, where do you see the next 9 months then? What are the key challenges that you see coming up, and what are the opportunities that you're seeing?
Well, I think we're all hoping that it's going to be a better year than last year. Last year, having been in the industry for nearly 20 years, was probably one of the toughest, and actually in some ways even tougher than COVID.
Yes.
Because at least, there was a sort of a plan for that at the moment, whether it's the economy, whether it's, wars abroad, whether it's the weather. We're obviously seeing more extreme weather. I think we just don't... There doesn't seem to have a pattern anymore.
No.
And so it is having to be, whilst you've got your strategy and your plan for the year, it's actually having to be very flexible and agile depending on the trading conditions. And I think that's quite a change for us all. But, we've got some fantastic new events, as I mentioned earlier, tulips and, the growth of pumpkins. And we're also putting pumpkins into our site at Hobbledown Epsom as well, which
Excellent.
is really exciting. Growing on our Christmas, event. We had a really successful Christmas, and, who knew that, you needed more Santa's grottos, but we do. I think events is becoming a real part of the calendar. Amazing. And, that's really exciting.
If you've spent any time in the attractions sector, then you surely will have heard of Tully's and their amazing Halloween and pumpkin-inspired events.
So I'm Stuart Beare, CEO of Tully's Farm, Tully's Entertainment Group, and also Tully's Growing Inspired, which is a second company that we run. Tully's is purely an events business now. Its background was in actually pick your own. We were a pick your own farm through the 70s and 80s. We're located near Crawley, Gatwick, down in West Sussex.
Okay.
So we're right in that kind of South London, South Coast, M23 corridor. The business evolved out of pick your own into a farm shop. We had a farm shop in the early 90s that was started then. That was my first... I joined the business and basically set up a farm shop. So we were looking at ways to try and attract people to a farm shop that was in a little backwater, close to Crawley, but we were only, at that point, a seasonal pick-your-own business that sort of kind of sat alongside it. So we needed to do other stuff to get people out. So we added a pumpkin festival in the mid-90s that's now grown into Shocktoberfest and the huge pumpkin farm that we have.
Yep.
We had a very small Christmas event, and that has grown from like a single Santa that was my dad one year doing it into the Christmas experience that we do as a daytime kids visit. We added a maze, which opened up the other side of the farm, so that it's basically two farms joined together. So on the other location, which is half a mile away, the maze opened that up for leisure. It had been strawberry fields and raspberry fields and things. That's where we have now the pumpkin farm, the tulip event, and we also developed a Christmas Lights Festival this last season on that same location. So it's pretty much 50-50 now between the two sites, what goes on.
But very much focused on the event side. You're not going for 365 day a year opening. You want to concentrate your effort on those events.
So the events took over the farm shop. So when we had the farm shop open with the big events going on, the shop was really quiet because the people that were shopping with us avoided it because it was too busy. So we ultimately closed that in 2014, so just over 10 years ago, to make way for the events business. And the anchor of that is Shocktoberfest, which is, we're into our 29th year this year with a Halloween scare event. So Tully's was pretty much first to market. And that's actually what we try and do.
Right.
We try and get first to market with stuff.
How? Where does the inspiration, where does the innovation come from?
The insight, there's a bit of an eye into the future by travelling out to the US and Canada and monitoring that market quite closely. So we've been travelling out there since '98. Most years, myself or some of the team go to a conference out there, which is their ag tourism conference.
Right.
And that's where the confidence has come from, really, to kind of do these fairly major seasonal events.
Yes.
But what we like is a start and finish. So you're on point when you open.
Yep.
You run it for a month. You're pretty on the edge by the time you get it finished. It closes. You mop up, crack into the next one, and that cycle repeats itself quite well.
But you've diversified by bringing in springtime, so you've got your tulips now.
Just recently, yeah. So
is that a stressful wait for the buds to pop up?
I think so. We're fairly relaxed. Last year it was, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We planted these things in November. wettest winter on record. Had no idea whether they were going to grow or anything. So we marketed it. We came to market with it quite late. But the response was great, and it's certainly something that we're looking to develop now for our spring season.
Yes.
2 years ago, I didn't even realise we wanted to do a spring season.
Next up, I'm joined by Phil Pickersgill, the MD of Innovative Leisure. I think it's really important to understand the experience of these sorts of events from the point of view of the suppliers. So, over to Phil.
So we've been around this industry for 25 years now. The company's Innovative Leisure, and we're based in Leicester. We do a lot of work in the UK, and despite Brexit, we are still busy in mainland Europe. It's just a little bit harder.
Okay.
But we help a lot of people with big projects. There's some big famous ones around the country, like the Beare grills at the NEC, that we were involved with for years. And historically, over time, our best customer that most people would know would be Centre Parks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we also deal with lots of schools, lots of scout groups, big scout camps, away like residential adventure sites, and we're known in this group for a lot of the adventure equipment that we add to farm parks.
Excellent. You've got quite an association over time with NFAN.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. What's your involvement with the organisation?
So I probably got involved with this group about 15 years ago, and that was just a natural meeting in some of the national trade shows. I think it was actually Leisure Industry Week. And so we installed a couple of climbing walls and a couple of other smaller projects. And then I realised that it was worth getting involved with NFAN specifically. And then I joined the committee about 12 years ago, made a lot of really good friends, learnt a lot about this group and how their code of practice works for animals to interact with the public safely. And then we just got deeper and deeper. So now we've probably got 30 or 40 customers in the hall.
Oh, wow.
And there are probably 300 farm park operations in the country. Obviously, a percentage of them come to an event like this. But what is unique about this group, I would say, is they're all completely transparent with each other and swap best practice. They ring each other up and help each other, and I would say actually they probably share their numbers with each other.
Wow.
Which in a lot of other sectors
You would never see that.
no, it would all be guarded, and so this for me really this event is a bit of a reunion now.
Nice.
And it you got to try and not stay out too late because there's another night the next night. So I always say this is a marathon, not a sprint.
So you're here exhibiting. What do you get out of it as a supplier coming to an event like this?
Because we've got quite a lot of existing customers, it's also a chance for those people who've got to know us on, say, a smaller project to then float their ideas of what they'd like to do in the next year or two on maybe a larger project, which is the evolution that often happens. What's also amazing with these farm parks is I met them when they were doing 30,000 or 40,000 visitors.
Yeah.
Some of them now have gone to over 200. Well, that's getting to the size of a small theme park.
Yes, absolutely.
So we also still, and we just have done in the last half an hour, meet people who we don't know. So I've just met a group of people from a farm park in the Midlands who are only an hour from us at home, and we've never really spoken to them.
Brilliant.
And so that does happen as well, which makes it a nice afternoon.
Excellent. What it is that you guys do, you're installing these kind of play equipment, play frames, climbing activities for kids at attractions. That's not a trivial investment, is it, for an organisation? For many of these farm parks, this is going to be a serious investment for them. Are you seeing that is being affected by them having tough years, or is it the case that they use these things as a way to bolster their offering, and so they're still carrying on investing?
Well, that's a big onion you've started peeling now. So let me give you a couple of different answers to that. At the beginning of all of this, What we supply is mostly harnessed adventure.
Right.
So this is quite specialist. It's putting people in a safety harness, connecting them with a carabiner, and then they either go on one of our high ropes or climbing walls.
Gotcha.
So we get really into the training, the inspections, and all that side of it. The reason why people come to us for that rather than regular play equipment is because they're starting to reach the boundaries of the age group that's attending.
Okay,
So they're getting to 8-year-olds, and now they want something for older brother or sister.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So they're then looking at their existing model. Now, to answer the later part of your question, and to go back to the economics talk that we had this morning, which was fantastic, there is trouble at the mill. and the October budget hasn't helped.
No.
On average, a member of staff under 25 is going to cost 16% more per head from April, and this is tough. But I do talk to everybody, and I do listen and learn at a lot of the national committees that I sit on, and roughly what's going to happen is a third of that is going to come out of people's profit next year, a third of that is going to come from cost savings with staff efficiencies, and a third of that is going to go on ticket prices, is roughly how it's going to work out. Yeah. And we've heard about Sainsbury's last week. It's not just these guys. It's going to hit so many retailers as well, and hospitality sectors. So I feel particularly sad that we haven't seen much of the growth that was promised, but we have had the taxes. What we could probably do with now is more growth, and let's hope things move ahead in the next few months.
And are you optimistic in terms of it's fair to say that the attractions, farm attractions especially, have experienced some growth? Many of them have had positive stories over the last couple of years when many other attractions have been challenged. Is it an opportunity for you maybe to be able to install more equipment and get into these farm parks and be able to help them to extend their reach?
Yeah, so when you're talking about the last budget and the economy generally, then you tend to take a holistic view of the whole thing. Within that, at the individual level, there's lots of success happening.
Yes.
There is lots of growth, and this particular sector of farm parks is growing a lot quicker than other leisure sectors.
Yes.
Within that, there are opportunities for us. If somebody was looking at spending $500,000, that now might be 200,000. That's still good business for us.
Yeah.
And that might then help them grow their radius of people that travel to them, because they've got something else to talk about. It gives them marketing collateral for the next year, and it might help them with age groups and with the way that guests flow around the facility. There's a lot going on under the bonnet of the industry. We've just got a slightly stronger headwind.
Like many farm attractions, the Goymour Group is a family affair, and I'm joined now by Adam Goymour, the fourth generation of his family to take part in running attractions.
Hi, I'm Adam Goymour. I am the director of the Goymour Group, which involves Roarr, the UK's #1 dinosaur-themed adventure park, Applewood Countryside Park, and Applewood Hall.
Adam, it has been a few years since you were on the podcast. What's been happening since you were with us last?
Wow, a lot. So since then we've had COVID. We then had 2021, which is a fantastic year with all the support from government.
Yeah.
But since then, everybody in the industry has gone through a very tumultuous time, especially with what can we say, inflation, interest rates. It's all been about survival, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's about succession planning and growth moving forward.
What does that future look like then for the group?
I think it's about refocus, or refocusing what we're doing, why we're doing it, and when we should be doing it. Because like most tourism businesses, we've now got a 6-figure sum added to our bottom line of cost. So that's not too great.
No.
However, we've got to diversify. It's looking at the team you've got, restructuring, rechanging roles, jobs, what that looks like, adding further value to the consumer who may not have as much money in their pocket as they think because of mortgage rates at the moment. But hopefully if interest rates come down by 1 to 1.5% by the end of this year, that should help them. So really what we're looking at is a lot of diversification into how we bring people to the park and different audiences to the park that have got the money as well.
How do you do that?
So, for example, we run Primeval, which won the UK's best screen park last year, 2024.
Awesome.
Which we're really proud of. So it's taken 15 years to grow that, and that's now our second most profitable and busiest month of the year.
Really?
So it's working on events such as that attract a different audience, and we're utilising the skill sets that we've got in our team to look at further ways we can attract people to the park.
Any other events that you're looking at running at different times of the year? I know I've spoken to 2 people already that have got tulip festivals, which I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah. So to say a bit about Applewood Countryside Park, so that's based behind Banham Zoo, which we're the landlords of, and my father started in 1968. And we purchased the other zoo that's part of Z, the Zoological Society of East Anglia, in 1991. So we've been running Christmas for a few years, so we've been really growing that over time, and we've got a new idea which is not common knowledge at the moment, so in due course there'll be some more news on that. However, we're looking to extend our Christmas experience in a way that other known quantities have been doing really well, and we can see a gap in the market for us to jump on that.
Okay.
Other things we do really well is like Easter.
Yeah.
So we've got a really big Easter event. We own our own IP-themed mascot characters as well, so we're utilising them in February and Easter where it's a lot more turbulent with the weather. So actually we utilise our indoor spaces of those characters to kind of use them in a different way.
Amazing.
And in the summertime we run evening events, like single evening events, which are really popular. So we it's got multifaceted in how we run those events.
Brilliant. Look, Adam, it's been lovely to catch up with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure listeners, I will point them back to the original episode that you were on so that they can listen to the lovely Kelly interviewing you and finding out more about what you do. It's been great to talk to you today.
And to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Cheers.
And lastly, I'm joined by Olly Reid.
My name is Olly Reid. I'm the marketing director for Navigate.
And what is it that Navigate does?
Ooh, good question. We are a marketing consultancy for purpose-driven visitor destinations, basically. So if you want people to come to a place and you do it for a good reason, then come talk to us.
So, icebreaker question.
Oh, okay.
So when you're going to a farm attraction, do you want to go and find yourself in the coffee shop and leave everyone else to go and feed the animals, or are you straight in there and every possible animal under the sun, you want them all over you?
I could not be the more opposite of the coffee shop. I am literally front of the queue, pushing all the kids out of the way. If they're like, oh, is anyone's birthday today? That's me. I'll pretend it's my birthday to feed anything, touch all the rabbits, all the pigs. Yeah,
Love it.
That's a bit of me. Yeah, love animals.
So, your very good friend and boss, Anthony, has been here at NFAN talking about marketing strategies for attractions for the coming year. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And I know Anthony's story is a little bit of a tale of two halves. So he has been talking a little bit, especially online on LinkedIn, about last year was a tough year for a lot of attractions. But interestingly, in the conversations I've been having here, that many of the farm attractions haven't experienced that. They're kind of they are a price point and a value for money proposition that lots of people can do. You're not talking about 150 quid to go and do a day trip. It might be a morning that you do, but it's a much more affordable option.
That makes sense.
But that being said, there is still a need for farm attractions to be resilient and competitive in the year ahead, because we know that there's lots of headwinds coming, there's increased costs of staffing, and what is it that Navigate is talking about, people thinking about to provide that resilience?
So I think for a long time, and so my background was at the National Marine Aquarium. I was kind of head of marketing there for some time, and when I was there, our core offer, obviously come look at some sharks and fish, was great. However, what we realised was we had a building which for certain parts of the day wasn't in use but still had costs. We had staff that were on the books all year round, but we were only busy in the summer holidays. So what we started to do, and actually in tandem with Navigate, and kind of what we're seeing more with Navigate now, is that you've got to diversify your offer, because I think the way that people engage with visitor attractions, brands, destinations has dramatically changed since COVID. I think COVID pushed us all online, and our relationship with tech and entertainment because of Netflix and everything's changed. So I think that attractions, farm parks, destinations kind of need to basically address that as well.
Yes.
So diversify, not just being a day trip, but maybe experiences after hours, behind the scenes tours, weddings, events, memberships, donations, whatever it is, finding that niche where actually maybe a bolt-on in a certain area could increase revenue without having to increase visitors.
Yeah, sweat the asset that you've got
Exactly.
By doing something different. So one of the talks this morning was James Sinclair talking about his farm attraction, and he was talking about kind of the business model that people use and diversification and how running a farm park, you can run an amazing farm park, and that's a good model, but a farm park with a nursery on the side of it, there's an interesting model because you're making use of the assets at different times of the week or different times of the year.
Exactly, yeah. Just to clarify, is that a nursery for baby animals, or is that...
No. It was a kiddies nursery.
Sign me up to the baby goat nursery. I'm in.
That does actually sound pretty fun. There we go. Yeah, so diversification, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I know Anthony has talked a little bit about revisiting your value proposition.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Some of these things, I think, they can be quite intimidating phrases. And so let's delve into what does that actually mean for somebody?
So a value proposition, I think, is something that as an agency or as a business, sometimes that can be like, I need to sort out my niche, what that is. And I think for an attraction or a place, I think for so long we kind of dined out on make memories or have a fun day out. And now, because of competition, decreased spending, people were like, well, yeah, but what do I actually get for that? I don't just want a nice day out, because actually I can have a nice day out in my garden when the sun comes out, or I can have a nice day out in nature for free. Yep. So what are you going to offer me for however much you're charging that is going to entice me to come to you?
Yep.
And I think one of the big things that Ant is kind of pushing as well, which I really, really agree with, is that for so long attractions have been marketed as this treat, as this bucket list experience.
Yep.
And now I think we're kind of facing the other side of that, is by saying we're a treat and this bucket list experience, people are going, well, we'll save that for the summer holidays, or we'll save that for later in the year for a birthday. Yep. And actually it's trying to work out at your core, what can you offer for an everyday experience that doesn't have to be maybe we'll go in 6 months, let's go today instead. So that's the kind of value proposition kind of model we're talking, really.
And is that fundamentally changing the way the business operates, or is it thinking about how you pitch these things to people? So sometimes you don't have to make changes in the business, do you? You just have to communicate differently.
That completely, and I think there's two halves to that, and I think part of our job is to go in and assess that situation. Sometimes it is a bit of a change up of the business model. Actually, a lot of the time, there's so many attractions here in the UK that you go to, and you just have the best time, you have the best experience, and you actually realise that just a tweak of the comms, maybe a bit of a digital, change, or the website, the social media, just a change on what you're showcasing of your attraction, it can just be the tweak that you need just to basically make you more famous.
Yeah. So revisiting that digital offer then is something that people should be really thinking about.
Definitely.
So once they've figured out what the value proposition is, looking back at your digital channels and...
Exactly, and I think one thing that I was always conscious of, when I was at the aquarium, is that because you're in the trenches day to day, you're fighting fires. Not literally, it was an aquarium, there wasn't many fires, but you're just trying to get on with your day job. Sometimes it's really hard to sit down, have time to sit down, but also just assess where you currently are. Yeah. And I think, whether you can do it in-house, whether you can carve out a bit of time for some staff to do, or you bring someone like Navigate to do, just assessing where you are and looking at the gaps, what you're doing. Sometimes it can be a case of, actually, we're just doing too much.
Yes.
We're on every single social media channel under the sun. Maybe we just need to do 2 or 3. And actually, we're posting 7 times a week. And actually, if we only posted 3, it could make the difference. Or the website's got 4,000 pages. Let's cut it down to a core offer. So it's those kind of questions that you need to ask. Yes. That's what can be really important.
One of the other things that I know that you've posted about is about being more than an attraction. How do you do that?
Well, I think it comes back to that kind of what we're saying earlier about diversification, and what I think attractions and attracting somewhere to a place I get why it's called an attraction, but I think and I and Simon, we're all talking about becoming a destination, So rather than I go to a place for an hour and a half to kill some time, I might go there for a bit of food, I might go there to have some fun, I might go to their shop, and actually their shop's amazing, or I might go to their online shop, or accommodation, let's have an overnight stay. And I think, imagine, treat yourself the way that Visit Britain treats, the whole of the UK, or, treat yourself as Visit Plymouth, for example.
Indeed.
You go onto their website, there's things to do, there's places to eat, there's places to stay. If you, as an attraction, can start thinking like that, you'll just change the mindset of people might want to spend more time with you, spend more money with you, and ultimately, ideally, be an advocate for your brand for the rest of their life.
Things begin to get really interesting for an attraction. Thinking about those digital channels, can you differentiate between whether somebody's local to you and give them one value proposition? We're a great place for you to come for lunch or afternoon tea, in addition to being a great attraction.
Yeah, definitely.
Or if somebody is, more than an hour's, 2 hours drive, then they're unlikely to come for afternoon tea, but they might be very interested in taking your accommodation offer and being able to personalise that pitch to them. You begin to get into a really interesting space, and instead of, a lot of attractions have their tickets sold by hotels, or travel agents. If they're coming to your attraction and they're coming from a distance, then you could be the one that is selling the hotel space, the accommodation space. Even if you don't have your own accommodation offer, you could still be pitching accommodation from local to you and being able to take some of that market and be that destination.
Exactly, and I think that's the way to start thinking. And also, when it comes to advertising, you mentioned it a second ago, it's like giving different creative to different audiences and sending to different parts of your website. For so long, people just go, right, send them to the ticket page and we'll send 100% of people there. Actually, if you've got toddler pages on your website, if you've got experiences pages on your website, if you've got, whatever, weddings, for example, and you use different ad sets and different audiences, you can still funnel them all to the website, and they might all actually end up on the same booking platform. But if you can funnel them in the right areas, you're more likely to build up those audiences in the right way and actually engage with them on the right channels. Yeah,
absolutely. One of the things that James Sinclair was talking about was about recognising different markets have different amounts of money. And he had I can't remember the silly phrase he called them, but I think it was waffles or wealthy over 50s.
Right.
But they've got the time and they've got the budget, and they may have grandkids appealing to them. Well, if you're going to do that, do you want to send, if you've advertised for that, if you've done some clever Google ads and you've spent the money, and then you send them to a page that has photography and is all about the language of when you're appealing to mum sat on a sofa on Thursday night, then your chances of being able to convert that person is much less than if you talk about what it's like to take the kids out midweek when you've got the grandkids with you, and photos appealing to that particular market. Bring together the landing page on the website with the ads that you've done, then you've got a much better chance of being able to convert.
Completely agree. And there was a really interesting, a few years ago, the Johnny Walker experience up in Edinburgh. I remember they did a talk. We don't work with them, but cool brand. What they realised is the demographic that were coming in, basically there was a lack of women of a certain age, young women. And they started, doing some research, and they realised, they asked these people, why aren't they coming? It's because all the adverts don't show anyone like them in your place. And a small tweak of just, if you want to attract different audiences, diverse audiences, younger audience, whatever it is show them adverts of people like them in the adverts. It's a simple tweak, but it's makes
not
sense.
Rocket science,
it's
is
not,
it?
But exactly, if you need to show people that these places are for them as well.
Completely. Look, Olly, it's been lovely talking to you. We could go on and fill an entire episode rather than just a little vox pop from the conference floor, but hasn't it been great?
It's been fantastic.
What a wonderful conference, what a wonderful location that we're in.
I know. Wow. I'm in Blackpool finally after my love of Strictly all these years. I've done a bit of dancing myself.
Did you take advantage of a sprung floor?
Oh, literally. My hotel doesn't know what hit it. Let's just say that.
Thanks for listening to Skip the Queue. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others to find us. Skip the Queue is brought to you by Rubber Cheese, a digital agency that builds remarkable systems and websites for attractions that helps them to increase their visitor numbers. You can find show notes and transcripts from this episode and more over on our website, skipthequeue.fm.